Okay. Wake up. Welcome to the first and 15th hosted by myself, Damilare, and today I am going to be talking about the existential crisis that is plaguing the creatives of the 21st century. I need my props, man. Okay, yes. Like, I'm noticing that I'm the guy that has the props. Okay. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to be the guy with the props. I got my little side table here. You guys can't see it. I got my maul stick that I'm gonna point at you every now and again, just to show you that I mean business. Got my suit. You know what I'm saying? Anyways. Yup. Alright. Let's move this microphone into a place that I like. So, this is the first and 15th hosted by myself, Damilare. Always remember, rent is due. And today we're going to be talking about the existential crisis that artists are living in this 21st century. I've had to answer so many questions to myself, for myself, about like why my art exists and all of these other things. And it's just like every other artist, right? There are these things within the firmament that we actually have to grasp as artists, and we need to be able to compose ourselves and comport ourselves to be able to actually fathom what is necessary for the future. So today I'm going to be talking about the existential crisis that artists are going through in the 21st century of the 20th decade, or the 20s. So we're halfway through the 20s now, the 2020s. And 100 years ago, we went through a transformation of the whole everything. Paul Delroche said, "Today, painting is dead," in response to photography. And the response by artists back then were the movements such as, impressionism, of modernism, surrealism, and my personal fave, futurism, and postmodernism. Along those lines also, we got photography and cinema, where, instead of taking direct replicas and, taking painstaking hours to create, minute details and really render out a form, what they did was they created, accents of a form and so on and so forth, right? And today we have hyperrealism. We have this major response to AI and large language models and all of these other things, and they are completely warranted. But where I see the silver lining, where I see the greatness, is that in response to photography, in response to cinema, artists did create these movements, including impressionism. So Paul Delroche's point was, why painstakingly go through all of these things when a photograph can take it within minutes? After that, where do we go? Regardless of whether it is or it isn't, where are we going to go? Do you know what I mean? I see the parallels between us now and 100 years ago. We have a myriad of artists that can create a whole cacophony of things based on art periods from the past 1,000 years, and yet we are all here, or yeah, let me say we are all here saying ML and AI and large language models are taking our job. They took our job. So those are the questions that I have today. So where will we take it? For me personally, yeah, I'm genuinely excited because in history we've seen this before. I've got a little bit of a conversation to be had with myself, with you guys, with everyone. So if you have some thoughts about what I have to say here, please comment. In both periods, artists have been asked the same question and they respond with the same things. Where have the times gone? Both in the 90s, right? So the 1990s and the 1890s and the 80s, which is the 1880s and the 1980s, artists have said, yo, those times were the best of times to be alive. But then the advent of technology is stealing from us, right? For all manner of creativity, right? No way. Because right then, when people started saying that, some of the greatest philosophies that came out of Dadaism came from the 20th century. So yeah, no. Futurism. Like Delaroche said, photography is not photography. Photography will take over actual painting, and then we got impressionism. So there was this more elastic, mentality that some people had. Wow, postmodernism, the philosophy that so many people live in today, all because of Duchamp and his gang of affiliates. Even though I'm anti-postmodernism, I am so anti-postmodernism, but I do have to say, their thoughts. Like I'm pretty decent. I'm pretty aligned with some postmodernist thoughts. However, the distinction that postmodernists gave to people, like postmodernists gave so many people audacity, it's unreal. Anyways, but yeah, I believe fervently that the golden age that we have is the time that we're living in today. And I've been like a massive advocate of that we are living in our own acres of diamonds. So yeah, so I can only imagine, right, the parallels that we are gonna start seeing, and I just want to intercept that and just be like one of the four people who says it, because I've been saying it for the past 6 years, but I've never made a YouTube video about it. I've only written about it, and only my brother Tiberius can attest to this. So yeah, who thought that back then? Like, who thought that those times were the best times to be alive? Like, time wasn't actually moving quickly. And at the turn of the century, who would have thought electrification and the World Wide Web would turn into their golden ages, right? And the only golden age I see personally is right now. And have been and will always be an advocate of the fact that we're living in our own acres of diamonds. And what that actually means is that part of a book that I read quite some time ago details that, when you just look at all of the resources you have around you, you can use your own ingenuity to display some level of creativity to create, something valuable for yourself. So long as you are looking right under your nose at the things that you love and the things that you adore and the things that you are overlooking because you're turning your nose up at them, you will find the benefit in where you are living in, rather than cutting your nose off to spite your face. But turning our noses up at things, turning our noses up at AI and all of these other things, we can actually see that the people around us, the times that we're living in, are actually a reflection of some positivity that we are participating in. And that is exactly what I want to do with our generation, for our generation, right? And I believe that fear of what is right underneath our noses, or right underneath our phones, for instance, is that fear is arrogance. Being afraid of the things that are new is arrogant. because you're afraid. Like, and it's my belief that that fear is arrogance. It's the arrogance of the bachelor. It's the arrogance, and by the arrogance of the bachelor, what I mean is, like, I have so many philosophies. I'm just gonna link them down below. I'm gonna link. This is a YouTube native video, but the arrogance of the bachelor is when people are educated to a point whereby they have thoughts and understandings based on, and a way of learning and thinking about things based on their bachelor's degree, because university is the first place a lot of us learn how to think, comprehend, and create critical thoughts. But we need to learn outside of there and expand the way that we learn outside of there, and I will talk much more about that later. And that fear and change of the changing times is narrowing our perspectives on long-term plays that include us and exclude technology. And we can't move like that, because technology is fast evolving, and acting like we can't keep up is also a disservice to our level of creativity. That fear is actually a form of arrogance, because if we are afraid of advancement, that means we're also afraid of somebody else's creativity. And what are you if you're an artist that is afraid of somebody else being creative? Because for a lot of us, the art that we create is new, and people are afraid of it. And people say to themselves, people won't advocate for us, because, we're not advocating for ourselves. We're not advocating for our own newness. And I think it's a disservice to ourselves to do that, because technology is moving fast and certain artists can't keep up. And, it's just one of those things about, just in the 1920s/1930s and, now, like, fascism started to grow, and it was a weird time. Like, and at the same time, people are talking about these fascist regimes, which I won't, neglect, because back then they had their fascist regimes, and today, we have our own types of fascist regimes. At least that's what some people think. And the criteria for art is shifting, and the type of documentation that we had in the 1920s and that's in the 2020s are both aligned. And in the 2020s, I believe we can offer some of the greatest things that we see, right? Even though the 1920s did include the Great Depression, and today people are changing the definition of America, the definition of recession and America. clock that T. They're changing the definition of recession. And back then, they also had the Great Depression, and, in America, they are changing the definition of recession. Hopefully it stays in America, but you know what I'm saying. I wanna actually tell you guys and display and impress on everybody listening, what does that have to do with the capacity in China, right? Okay, so today, artists have a major part to play, and the criteria for artists is shifting, and we are documenting that. Artists today have a major part to play in the philosophical changes of the times. We always have, and we always will do. And we documented that in the 1920s, and something positive and, cemented in history of what they've come up with. And now, everything is in flux. And before anything is really being cemented in history, there's been this very, very elastic period. And this is a time where we don't necessarily have an equilibrium, because everything feels, at least when the way that we're living in it right now, I can say with almost certainty that a bunch of people feel like everything is up in the air and there isn't much that we can do about it. And that is one thing that a lot of people are trying to understand. A lot of people are trying to understand, okay, the things that we're looking at, the way that life is, there is no equilibrium. So, and we don't want to do a disservice to ourselves to act like we don't. Like, when we had Impressionism, when we had Surrealism, when we had Dadaism, they changed the philosophical landscape back then. So today, artists and the way that we think have a strong part to play in the philosophies of the times, and the empathetic we are, understanding that we are the empathetic heartbeat of the time. So if we are too scared, then the whole landscape of people are going to be too scared. I don't want us to shortchange ourselves, and what we're saying can be quite damaging. I don't want us to shortchange ourselves by saying some things are so damaging, that we're damaging our stock, we're doing a disservice to our marketing, and like our market is being scattered because we believe in certain things that people are saying about us, and it's almost becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy whereby we're saying these negative things and people are believing them, therefore we are losing value in ourselves, therefore in the market is losing trust in us. Not to say that we're scared of anything, because that's also what people believe when things are just unstable, but there is the understanding that everything is in play. Absolutely everything is in play. And we are actually doing a disservice to our marketing team, because people are saying, yo, we need more artists in corporations, but they're looking at our tweets and saying the artists don't even think that they're going to make it, so why should we hire them? Do you know what I mean? Only the rubbish artists should be out of a job, honestly. Whoever you believe the rubbish artists are, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm going to detail some that aren't doing it correctly. I'll be real. That's just where we're going with this. So let me just lock in for 2 seconds, please. Hopefully, only the rubbish artists will be out of a job. Like, honestly, I want you guys to count your days, fam. And if we actually saw ourselves as a valuable assets rather than commodities to be shifted and moved, then we would actually have a big difference maker and bigger part to play in the changing of the times. And I'll actually detail a time where we missed out, but in detailing this, I just hope that we won't miss it again. It's part of the artist's responsibility to grasp the philosophy of the times without jumping all the way back to 100 years anymore. Like, a familiar figure that most artists today are accustomed to is Basquiat. People knew him as some homeless guy who sold a painting to Warhol and became a phenomenon of his time, but those actions actually weren't random and they weren't happenstance. And as much as the marketing would lead you to believe that it was just some serendipitous thing, in real life it actually wasn't. Basquiat was a middle class guy that was well educated, and he had a very, very good understanding of the arts. He had a very, very good understanding of his own history, and the work he created was a reflection of that. And once he created this homeless persona, this bohemian aesthetic, and he created this homeless bohemian aesthetic that a lot of people, not just him, wanted to live back in the day, which is away from home, away from their education, because they wanted to buck the system. It was a very punk era times. We got like Ray Kawakubo, Yoji Yamamoto, the punks, Vivian Westwood, everybody, like the mod scene, everything was coming to a head at these times. Bohemian aesthetic for himself, and then went on this insane networking spree. He came through with his insane networking ability, his charm, his handsomeness, and became popular in powerful social circles. So what I want us to learn from this is that we have a need to highlight the empathetic liberal intellectuals who have the capability to be social and network, right? And by liberal, I'm talking about the little L, as in the people who are more liberal in thought, more liberal thinkers, the people who are open to new ideas, open to new thoughts, and are 3 or 4. He and a bunch of other people were the empathetic liberals that were able to be intellectual as well, and they had the capability to socialize and network. Socialize and network are some of the most powerful people in today's day and age. Shout out to, and I'm talking about lower C liberal and not like the politicized liberal, like people who are opening their minds, they're 3 or 4, they're creative, all of these other things. And today we have this antisocial artist that sits in the corner and they get picked on or whatever it is, but it was not as prevalent back then as it is today. And this idea that the reluctant antisocial nerd in the corner who got picked on is gonna go for is gonna go far later on in life after they gain confidence. Like, now is the time to gain that confidence. The tropes and the signs and the tea leaves. Today, African art is as popular as it was 100 years ago. This is for me, right? The only thing that has actually changed is who was allowed to do it and who was allowed to be inspired by our history. So we know famously Picasso, who was inspired by African art, made his bones from being inspired by African art, the real kind of African art. Today, and then now we have, cinema also doing the same thing. They are being, and America are highly inspired, taken away from African cultures, and then selling that off to a mainstream audience that makes it more digestible, right? Today, we have artists being derivative of Basquiat, without the same level of intellectualism, lacking the pool of resources that Basquiat had and what he was inspired by, using the moniker of self-taught as a crutch, as if museums aren't free. And self-taught artists as if you can't read a book if you're a self-taught artist. That's always been off to me. Artists should do read, because we are well-educated people. Anyways, and then there's a lot of people giving lip service and word salad about reclaiming words in a pseudo-intellectual soliloquy based on a shallow ideology of what black people... What type of weirdo reality are you living in? Anyways, self-taught can't reference, but you can't reference correctly. And you're scared to reference. You think that not looking at history is helping you be a better artist, when it's actually doing the opposite. Not being a monolith actually is. The game is a shambles, right? Because in reality, you're saying, oh, the only inspiration I have is Kanye West. Kanye West is referential of quite legitimately hundreds of things. He's not even being self-referential. He's listening to people who have he has no wherewithal to synthesize these pieces of information or critically analyze what he's being told. He just has people who he's trusting, and he's regurgitating what they're saying. And look at him now. We have evolved as a society past the need for Kanye West. Now we have people that have come into their blackness late into life, fine, while previously living the tropes that echoes the same type of sentiment, being alternative in spite of blackness, being referential of racialized and politicized tropes of black bodies, perpetuating and proliferating the same harmful imagery that was made of us by colonial minds. Giving lip service and word salad about reclaiming words in a pseudo-intellectual soliloquy based on a shallow ideology of what black people not being a monolith is, when, blackness has an alternative nature. Anyways, oh, look at me, I'm not like all the other black people, when in reality, the game is in a shambles. The game is a shambles right now, okay? The value of the creative mind is at the highest that it's ever been, but artists lack the self-esteem and self-worth. We lack it. Our lack of self-esteem and self-worth is even higher than the value that people have put on us in the market, which is absolutely, okay? Artists would rather stay in a dark room and not socialize, and they will be in social media group chats and discords waiting for someone to give them a handout, rather than reaching out to people that they actually like. They just want to be liked rather than being actually liked by the right people or people that they actually like. So artists will call it manifestation if they get paid 6 times a year of certain random jobs, but instead of, if they think, or if anyone else gets the idea to approach somebody, and then they're looking out and they're going out and they're socializing and they're networking to get a job, they're like, oh no, I don't want to do sales, I don't want to be salesy, what do you mean? The game isn't a shambles, my friend. Imagine being around people that you don't half like. Your self-worth is just so low that you want to be liked by anybody. So you go around pretending and acting and mirroring and creating this persona so that people can say that they like you. God forbid, man. God forbid. Like, people need new ideas, and when we go out there and we actually test our ideas against the world, like, we enable our ideas not just to be stronger, but we show the power of the mind of the artist. Every artist knows the adage, your network is your net worth. But we always find ways to self-sabotage, not having business, and self-sabotage our way into not having business relationships. Okay, let me give a word right now, because in reality, right, like, people, artists, us, we will have 5 situationships, but let it be us that are going out looking for work. We won't even have one business relationship. What a time to be alive, man. What a time to be alive. I, for one, even when there's only 20 people across all social medias listening to me, I honestly, genuinely, I'm endeared to these 20 people. I want those 20 people. I like those 20 people. Those 20 people are my people, because they get the way I like to share ideas and proliferate ideas out there across social media. And we get to have a conversation, we get to have a dialogue. And if you're listening this far and you're here at this point in the video, then I would love to know what you have to say and what your thoughts are on this also. You know what I mean? My guys, man. My guys. My 20 people, man. That's gang right there, man. That's gang. And if all 20 people were in this room, and I do plan on having an artist salon soon, and and in the artist studio soon, I would feel cramped. But at least there are 20 minds understanding of the way I want to put forward my intellectual thoughts, or even the manner of art, even if it's not intellectual, the manner of way that I'm trying to create. At least they are proponents of it and want to champion me in some sort of way. 20 people is a lot of people, man. We'll all be talking to our people, whether it's 20 of them or whether it's 20,000 of them. But this is the problem. I would rather 20 solid people than 20,000 lukewarm people that are there just for the photo op. You know what I'm saying? I would rather, and forsaking my social battery for people that I don't like and don't want to be around. Like, I would much rather prefer those 20. Like, so in reality, I'm just like every other artist who's not trying to socialize with a lot of people, but I will not stand in my own way and decide to not socialize with the right people. If I'm trying, right? And for everyone else that does this, at least we're trying to engage with the right people. Goodness gracious me. And what I pray for right now is to be surrounded by the right type of people that I get to listen to their thoughts, and it helps me evolve as a thought leader or public intellectual, and they listen to mine so I can test the metal of my ideas and all of these other things. So, but yeah, like, what is the future of artists in the 20s though? Like, me personally, I want to return to the artisan class. The future of the 20s, as I see it, is that I want a return of the artisan class and the intellectual class. Defining artisan means people who specialize in particular areas, who redefine certain fields. So whether it's painting and evolved painting, or whether it's lacquer artists, right, or people who repair teapots, and the intellectual class of artists, people who are very, very solid in a craft. We are great craftsmen. Hardwood tables, full walnut tables, oak tables, all of the furniture, redefining that. Defining these things in the 20s is imperative to us. CNC, high tolerance design, 3D print, paint, anyone who's, well endowed in understanding and learning a craft and has put hours and hours and hours and years, decades into understanding something, so that they can come to the group and bring, their particular type of expertise to us. And I do believe that that is what we need, the artisan class. And then we are also great thinkers. Those are the two things that when I study artists, I know them to be. And then the artist intellectual class. Not every artisan can be part of the intellectual class, and not every intellectual can be part of the artisan class. But there are, part of the Venn diagram, we have some overlap. But yeah, like the intellectual class who thinks up new ideas, thinks up new ways of thinking, so that we can really have a combat ground for our minds and our thoughts, and we can spark new ideas and interest and intrigue of what we love. And my message to us is that we're about to be the greatest generation of artists the world has ever seen. What do I mean by greatest, and what do I mean by generation? I legitimately mean greatest. Greatest means the most fluent in art and exploration, and generation, the 21st century. So this generation over every generation that came before us. Artists have been around for millennia. So yeah, that's a lot of generations. But yeah. That's really big. I've not said that out loud in a minute still. I like that though. I like that. This is, my thought, and I would really love to hear what other people have to say. But and there's some people who are just as good as artists as they are, speakers, and so on and so forth. So artists are also public speakers. Also, should I say public intellectuals? You know what I mean? And I will always reference, right, Gertrude Stein as one of my main inspirations for being so staunch about this, because it takes more than just a cohort of painters or architects to create a generation defining movement. My genuine belief about our generation, we have what it takes, we have the tools, and I believe we can leapfrog all the other generations, because the quality of information and writing that are at our disposal is what we can thank them for leaving the crumbs. But then also, we need to thank ourselves for bringing them back, because some of these things were lost in the ether, and now we have people doing whole dissertations and exhibitions on black hair and adornments going all the way back into ancient Egypt. Postmodernism and modernism help define brutalism, futurism, and surrealism, and industrial design and everything like that help define, or like, should I say, Bauhaus product design help define what the automotive industry would look like, creating pretty cars, and not just functional cars but pretty cars. And so it takes more than one field of expertise. It's just when you're an intellectual of the people, you're able to create based on what society thinks. You're able to penetrate the zeitgeist and pull from that. But then those ideas are more than just useful to the artist that's able to pull from them. It's useful to everybody. It's useful to all artists that are around them. But then it's not just useful to them. It's useful to the people that are watching the artist do these things. And they say, oh, that artist actually has a point. Not artists like Kanye West, God forbid. Anyways, we need the mercantile class back also. So the merchants, not the people who will sell, God forbid, sell a logo for £50. Oh my days, how abhorrent would that be? All of you artists out there that are selling logos, selling your services, having done your degree or being self-taught for however many hours, and selling that for £50, and you're gonna work a whole week at least worth of labor on that. Good for you. Congratulations. I actually really hope that you do really, really well in your career, and I wish you nothing but the best and positive things. through all the recordings of artists that have happened over the past millennia, we have the opportunity to rewrite the flow and lift the bar of what is considered extraordinary. We leapfrog so many other generations in quality of information and writing that is at our disposal. And what it is that it's all thanks to them for leaving those breadcrumbs behind. I don't want to act as if I'm some ungrateful, new age, new generation guy. One thing I love about being a painter is that I get to say, yo, thank you. Being a good painter is being able to say thank you to everybody that came before you. Whether you like them or not, whether they were racist or not, they aided in the betterment of whatever you create, of whatever I create. And we just replicate information better than most people. We are able to replicate more accurate information than anyone else in history before us, and we are able to course correct wrong information faster than anyone. Yes, people can say, okay, the lie goes around the world 100 times before the truth even gets its shoes on. However, the lies and truth are being combated at the same time, at the same pace, even though there's a lot of discord and dissent, because we are talking in a globalized society as well as socials. There is an understanding that these things that we're talking about are being discussed, which isn't something across continents, which isn't something that we could have said before. But yeah, before we even get to painting and sculptures and all of these other things and music and whatever, the information we have is correct and it's prevalent. So as much as bad as the information does, we also are combating them rather quickly as a generation, not even just as an artist class, but as a generation and people who like to procure information. And the information that we have most of the time is correct, it is prevalent, and it permeates throughout the zeitgeist. And the zeitgeist is important to these things, because if we aren't all on the same page, then we have this uphill battle of, informing the people, educating the people, and then getting them to see our ideas properly. Like Ojiji Sans Elegante, for instance, there are so many things that people have to get educated on, and I don't necessarily want it to be an education. I want it to be, a thorough, thoughtful process of someone's internal understanding of what I'm creating. But it's apples and oranges here. Like, we have the right information, and that's good for us. That's where it needs to stay. But one thing I do understand is that we need to be better critiques of each other. This goes back to the Gertrude Stein thing. We need more people who understand how to talk to us. So what do I mean by that? We make it easier on ourselves when we have friends that can push us and our creativity, and especially when we're not using the general public as a sounding board. The general public are our audience. They're not our critics, and they're not our mentors. We see this reflected in, let's say, sports personalities that are now becoming broadcasters, and they are steel sharpening steel. Like, we are all players in a match. We're all players in the game. Like, there are a bunch of artists that are players in this game, in this let's say this league. Let's say London is a league, Paris is a league, Milan is a league, Rome is a league, New York is a league, Cali, Miami, so on and so forth, Stuttgart, Berlin, everywhere is a league, because anywhere there's people, there are minds that are able to be socially active and participate in the movements that we create. And that's how we have to see it. The people are our acres of diamonds right now. So yeah, man, we need to make it easier for ourselves. As much as, this generation has this postmodern ideology, which is one of the ideologies that I'm not a fan of, which is, okay, you, us, we can do whatever we want, we can make whatever we want, all of this, all of that. Anything can be art. So they say, right? Anything can be art, apparently. But sorry. I can't even get it out, bro. Oh my word. Anyways, anything can be art. But sometimes the art is not worthwhile. It's not worth listening to. It's not worth reading. It's not worth watching. Sometimes we need to scrap it. I was literally recently just talking to a friend, and I said, if this doesn't work out, I'm scrapping this idea and I'm starting a new idea, bro. Because it's unquestionable. Like, I have more ideas. This doesn't need to be the idea that works, but alhamdulillah, it's working. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, alhamdulillah, if it's not working, also, it's like, at least I know, at least I tried. Artists need to just be more outgoing. And going back to the general public does not need to be the people who we go to so that we can create this thought, like this revolving door of them being able to just openly critique our work and criticize us as we're creating something. It doesn't need to be that way. However, some artists somewhere had a great success doing that, so we believe that that is the way that things have to be today. No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't. We invent the way that things have to be today. We just have to be confident in those things. Class 2. And then there's, plays on teams, and still sharpening, still. Artists need to be doing that. Artists need to do that. The other thing that artists need to do is that we need to be more outgoing. So we need to be better critics of each other, or have better critiques of what we are doing, so that our ideas, when we put them out there, there is a layer, there is a filter, which is called the artist, or the guild, our guild. The artist, let's call it the artist guild for now. The artist guild has a filter, and we pull it towards the guild, and we're like, yo, this is my idea, and then we test it. Academic rigor, or artistic rigor, or artisanal rigor. We test it, and then we bounce it back and forth until it is the best, most crystallized, most purest form of what it can be. And then we send it out there, we ship it out there, and then people can say, yo, this is not a rush job. We don't need to be like, oh, I saw this in a dream, or I just would like to freestyle. No. I was concerned about this thing. I took my time. I was very thoughtful. And I had the people that I was around as a sounding board. And we went back and forth until we made this idea, one of the greatest ideas or creations that I've ever done. This is my pièce de résistance. This is my magnum opus. Because artists need to be more outgoing and explorative, and we need to leave our homes. We need to take sabbaticals to countries abroad, and just strengthen our relationships with artists in different countries. Because once we're able to do that, we're able to create a better landscape, a way of thinking. Like, broadening our horizons is a real thing, is a big thing that happened in the 20th century that I feel like we should get back to. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, before you even leave your country, just leave your house. Leave your house. Leave your house. Like, very explorative. Go out there, travel, see new places, be able to go to different cultures and synthesize the thoughts of other artists in different countries and see how they think, and mix and mingle the way that we think with the way that they think sometimes, and understand the context of which they're living in, and then help them understand the context of which we're living in. We need a class of people that understand going out and taking sabbaticals in different countries and exploring different cultures to strengthen our relationship with other artists in different countries, to be a powerful thing that we do. But yeah, we just need to leave our houses more. Like, plain and simple, we need to leave our houses more. Go outside, touch grass, do what is necessary. Leave the bedroom, leave the studio. Okay, because that is what they did 100 years ago, and that bore fruit. People moved to Paris just cause other artists were there, and they created a whole new league. Like let's think of even like Singer Sargent, Paris, then London, and all of these other things. Even though he was like a wealthy guy, he did that. Picasso, Spain to Paris, all sorts. You know what I'm saying? Education, everything, double W's across the board, man. W's in the chat. Wait, before I talk about artists going to different countries, even further, artists need to go outside, plain and simple, man. Go touch grass. Like, we need to know that it is okay to just leave your house. Like, we need to network. Like, me personally, I don't like networking. I don't like talking to people. Like, but this is the thing. I do like networking. Networking is the intention of mutual exchange and cultivation of a business relationship. That is a quote by me. I wrote that quote. What I just don't like the idea in networking is forced conversation. We don't need to force ourselves to have these conversations with people and network, because there is a different thought of what networking is than what I think. But I created Voices in Fashion, where a lot of minds were able to come together from that were a lot of different stages in their creation journey. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I like these people though. They self-filtered. They decided to stay. They decided to be around me. They decided a bunch of things for themselves, and I liked myself more when, you know, people were around me that I cared for, and not just cared for, but I cared for the people cared for me, and life is just easier for me to be like that around them. Like, and this the thing, like, we're cultivating all of these situationships, and you know, we have terrible relationships with other humans, but then when it comes to cultivating one business relationship, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have situationships, but you can also have business relationships that don't pan out. Do you know what I mean? You have romantic relationships that don't pan out, and that means you can also have, you know, business relationships that don't pan out. You're more than happy to have 5 or 10, you know. Anyways, let me not even read all of you guys, all of us anyways. But yeah, will do. I don't have a fear of rejection, nor do I have a people pleasing complex. I don't feel the need to please anyone. Like, you can hear it in my tone. Like, I'm not here to please anyone. This is a self-satisfactory thing, for a lot of reasons, but also this is just generally how I feel. I care about artists, and I care about us being the greatest. If I think about that long enough, this is part of, you know, aiding in that, or participating in that. Not even aiding. I'm not like the silver bullet that's gonna help all artists everywhere at once. No way, fam. Shout out to that movie, but no. I'm just participating in a future that I want to see. So my preference is to live my life and to go about my life. Not to say that, you know, if people come, if they go. That's not the type of person that I am. But I like when I enjoy someone being myself, and they enjoy when I'm being myself as well. If I'm allowed to be myself around somebody and talk about the things that I want to talk about, and then I can also give them that opportunity and give them that rope, give them that leverage, then that is, to me, the start of a good sparkling relationship. But yeah, like, we need to be ourselves unadulterated, and I think it's important to learn about certain things. And I think that the more that we're able to be confident, we have humility in something that is bigger than ourselves, and we play a part, and we just don't necessarily have to think about the differences. We think about the things that we want more of. Do you know what I'm saying? So let's say what I find important is, you know, being a humanitarian. I care about AI. I care about sustainability. I care about diversity. Like, such as in Voices in Fashion, I spent a lot of time, like, just cultivating, not even just cultivating, like, I just wanted a mixed bag. I wanted a woman audience and a male audience, and I wanted, you know, people that were from all different backgrounds, but to be able to just put in the pot to have conversations that were, you know, quite diverse, and it wasn't an echo chamber. There were people who were more conservative, or people that were more money savvy, and then there were people that were very liberal, and the people that didn't care about money and care about spirituality, so on and so forth. Like, but at least there was a person in the network that you can connect with, that okay, maybe I'm not the money person, but maybe I am the idea person. Those people connect, and then they make ideas together, they make poetry. Do you know what I mean? And that's part of what I've done. But this is the other thing I care about. Right? We need to read better. Some of us read enough. The problem isn't the reading, it's the quality of what we're reading. Most of us are reading the shade room, YouTube comments, Discord, all of these other things. But let it be a scientific journal or large language model, they will have a conniption, right? And people think like, oh, I'm not trying to read all of this. You can read about art history, you can read about African cultures, you can read about Desi cultures, you can read about Mughal cultures, Mongol cultures, everything under the sun. But like, simple enough, you can even just prep financially, do something for your future self. Artists, we do not get a pension, something that I'll be talking about in detail later down the line, but we don't get a pension. So it's important for us to be able to know what a Roth IRA is. It is important for us to know what an ISA is. But will we look that up? It's a no. But yeah, man, kudos to artists who read up on politics and the political climate and sustainability. Like, we all have our areas of intrigues, and those of us that follow through with them, that aren't afraid to read an academic paper or whatever it is, I'm proud of us. Like, however, you know, when it's a book on art history, we gotta make sure that we do those things as well, and not have any reservations on those things. Like, we not wanting to be inspired by other artists is off, bro. It's just off. So I like to learn about AI and sustainability practices. Full stop. That is kind of like the main things that are relatable to today, that everybody's gonna know about, in essence. So yeah, like, I like understanding diversity and intellectual property. But yeah, the development of machine learning and large language models. So if I ever say LLMs or MLs, that is what I'm talking about. So yeah, they're important to the world. They're important to global economics, and because they're important to that, that means they're important to me, because they shift the tide in where wealth is being transferred. So we all need to understand these particular things. So what we need to care about is our IP and, you know, data sovereignty. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? How do we keep our data sovereign? Like, we should be the arbiters of our own information, our own intellectual property. If I put this video somewhere, I can be assured that it is my video, but I don't want it to be used to train AI and me not get compensated for it in some sort of way. And that is the same thing with all of my other pieces of art. And this is the thing, when we have put our work in the places that these large corporations say that we can create an audience, all right, maybe we shouldn't have to think that an AI is going to be trained with it, and then we're not getting compensated for that, because genuinely we should be getting compensated for that. So anyway, but yeah, this is why cybersecurity is important. This is why walled gardens are important. That is a private company's ability to like just blockade people's or bad actors, or even, you know, third parties from looking at your data. But if you give that away in your cookies, then, you know, that is what it is. So yeah, man, there's so much talk about DEIs in tech companies, but what that actually means is that the major reason why that occurred is because AIs were found to have racist tendencies and racist findings, because they were trained by people with major human biases. Like, people say AI is unbiased, but it's only unbiased as much as the data we use to train it. So that's why they wanted to get more people of diverse backgrounds, so that the AI can be more creative. But where were artists? We were outside being afraid, or inside our houses being afraid of what AI will do, and we missed an opportunity. And I'm here to say I don't want us to miss that opportunity again. Do you know what I mean? I keep saying, do you know what I mean? I don't want us to miss that opportunity again. It is not for us to miss that opportunity again. If you were a nurse, if you were a copywriter, if you were a city planner, if you were an architect, if you were an engineer, like anything, if you were a hat maker, you could help train AI, because the more information, the better, right? But it didn't go to artists because our eyes weren't open to these things, those opportunities back then. But for me personally, as a writer and researcher, I was allowed in these rooms, and I was allowed as part of these conversations, because, you know what I'm saying, I was there. Like, and I just built up, like, not, I'm not even tooting my own horn, I just built a particular skill set. People knew me as a writer, they knew me as a journalist, and they liked hearing my ideas and my ways of thinking based on the experiences that I've had in, not just this life, but then my career experiences as well. And not just that, just the industries that they surround, so manufacturing, supply chain, global demand, everything like that, right? And I could talk in business terms also. So like I had real fun learning all of these business terms in when I was studying economics, right? But I guess like it's not necessarily based on purely on my experience. It was more so that I had a way of articulating the ideas, or even just putting it in a different aspect, because I don't think that I was that smart in these rooms. However, I was able to articulate and portray certain ideas and be empathetic to certain people's plight. But yeah, like it really just brought about a wave of people that, wanted to hear what I had to say. Like, it wasn't radical, but at the same time it was necessary, and I just wanted to participate. Everything about this is being able to participate, being in the right rooms. But, all of these type of things came to a head when Ukraine happened. But yeah, like in those times, one of the major reasons why I slowed down, especially in 2024, was because of all the things that I went through with Africans in Ukraine. So I was having conversations on the political crisis, and people were talking about Putin wouldn't invade and all of these other things, and I was like kind of a proponent of that. Western media were so wrong. We were so wrong. I remember that so vividly. Let me actually illustrate what happened, right? Because when I said that, I also looked up Mearsheimer, and he spoke about something called balance of power politics. And instead of dealing with, the growing NATO affairs and allowing them to do that, he said, no, not this one. And yeah, like, unfortunately, an economic and military opponent, I guess, I don't know how else to put it, was trying to knock on Russia's door. And unfortunately, it's the shape of a country, and it's so sad, and it's so unfortunate. But really, where I came into all of this picture was the invasion happened on Wednesday, and I just felt in my heart of hearts that it was something that I needed to do. And I saw what I needed to do on Friday, and by Monday, the news that I created was all around the world. I had all sorts of people around me, but today you see a painter, but back then, it was a big deal, isn't it? So yeah, like, when I say I'm a painter, people will say, what good would that do the world? Well, proof is in the pudding. The reality is that I had and have more than enough at my disposal. And people may be right when they say, what good would that do the world? But yeah, like, I have to ask that question. But then also they have to ask the question, what good would it do the world if you are a doctor but you hate what you do? Or if you're a nurse, or if you're a physician, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, let me not even get into that, because the main point is that, I did it for a community of people who were restricted from leaving the country based on the color of their skin. And as a painter, I was in the middle of this, cluster. I had a sickle cell crisis at the time, and I was doing all of this stuff from my bed, essentially, just a few meters away. I was hounded by journalists. I was hounded by Americans. I was hounded by Russians. I was hounded by Europeans. People were saying the good people when they were talking about white people and the bad people and all of these other things. Anyways, it's kind of hard for me to talk about this, but at the same time, yeah, man, I had support from activists, but I also had vitriol from racists. All I was thinking about, and what is really stuck with me, and I tried to block out a bunch of this stuff, but I just remember the time I was in the middle of a crisis, man, and I was on the phone to a father who had kids and a wife, and he was forced to leave the bus, and these men who were probably also scared had AKs with them, and yeah, I had to give him instructions on how to document this properly, safely, and was accounting for a bunch of people, on foot going to Poland, going to the border, and what they had to do there. And, I had a lot of support. Everybody had a lot of support, whatever, man. Anyways, I didn't know talking about that was going to ruin my mood like that, to be fair. Let's continue. Yeah, man. Yetzer Hara, man. The way that has to be weighed. We're all artists at the end of the day. And the way that artists can evoke change, after reading, researching, trying to understand certain things, philosophy, systems, and systems of industry as well. We can understand things like sustainability. And I'm not talking about this type of sustainability where we glue ourselves to the motorway. No way. Yeah, that's not the part of sustainability that needs more people, honestly. The part of sustainability I'm talking about is the people who see the problems differently and see solutions where other people can't. And, we see the best part of the challenge and not the worst part of the challenge. Not the doom and gloom, but all the revolution, really. But the blossoming of a third pathway. Armed with information and the ability to read Russian, I use my technical abilities to get a message out there to the masses, and I created Africans in Ukraine. So if you look up the hashtag, you're generally gonna see me. If you look it up on Google, I'm gonna be somewhere there. Maybe there's a bunch of other people, but my tweets kind of started the maelstrom, and there were loads of other people that done loads of great work. But as a painter, I was, sort of as a painter, because I don't necessarily think I was painting then. But as a painter, I was in the middle of political maelstrom. One of my favorite script writing coaches say banana. We take the pathway of banana. There's A path and B path. We choose banana. Taking the path that is least expected or understood to the masses. This is the path least traveled and opened a new way via ingenuity. Ingenuity is well known by artists, of course, around the world for that matter. And one thing about artists is that some of us have the ability to make sense of the abstract. And sustainability is one of these abstract fields. And we like to find the root of the problem. And we are just generally empathetic to the political landscape of everything. So that is what we can do. And for me, I like to know or note that, I've been a connector in sustainability, and I like doing the behind the scenes part. Obviously, I'm not an engineer, but I love materials engineering and discovering of new materials. And, it's not just sustainability in manufacturing, but then sustainability in architecture and what that means there. Sustainability in business models and what that means there. Fashion also. So yeah, man, life is made for the living, and living artists who make what we call this life, meaningful, add the best value, especially in aiding in education. I'm really just a painter, but I'm not going to argue with people about why I should be allowed a voice. Like, we don't live long enough as human beings to not be confident on this earth, or most other matters, honestly. I'd rather, speak directly to y'all instead of saying, the consumers are naff and the this and the that, and they should value us more. I'd rather speak to artists and be like, yo, we need to value ourselves more. We need to up ourselves. We need to market ourselves correctly. We need to do all of these things that enable us to not just be seen differently, but if we see ourselves differently, people will have no choice but to see us differently. It's like collective bargaining, for instance. But yeah, and in my opinion, as human beings, we don't live long enough to not be confident anyway, and we have to know what we want. We have to be confident in knowing what we want. And as an artist, and we don't have enough time as artists to be coquettish and humiliate ourselves. I mean, humble, to be humble about who we are or what we know. And it starts with educating ourselves. And what we know is important to us is what we should be educated on, and actually having the mindset to understand these things. So when I talk about political advocacy and humanitarianism, or medical advocacy, within like the sickle cell anemia, or we're talking about sustainability, where it's connecting people regardless of their findings, and regardless of whatever the normal track and whatever everybody else is trying to say is, it's like we can create a different way for people. The way that should be weighed is being able to educate ourselves so that we can educate others and express in the most creative ways with ingenuity that importance to the world. Yo, like, for artists, being coquettish and having humility is a curse. Like, of all things, bro, of all things, made by the powers that be, who wanted to see less of our ideas promoted, because 100 years ago, our ideas were the reason why the world was moving in such a positive direction in some instances. So yeah, he wanted to see less of our ideas permeated through the zeitgeist and change the life of those around us. And for the best pathways and the best ways to shift culture is to access the hearts of the people by translating these real stories into works of art they relate to and will actually stick to them. And we should be able to look at the weight that is on not just ourselves but on the society at hand. And the more that we're able to create, not just for ourselves, but for the people, then the more that we're able to actually move forward and push forward and be, not just great for the times and great for solving a problem. We're going to be one of the greatest generations. And that comes with us having confidence, because there are some things that we do phenomenally, right? Like, there's so many artists I know that know how to make a living from creating. That's great. There's a lot of artists from the last millennium that didn't know how to do that. But there's some things that we left undone. And one of those things that we left undone was having the ability to actually not just advocate for ourselves, but advocate for causes that we care about. As I see it, that is a scam, bro. That is a scam. And it's made by the powers that be, who wanted to see less of our ideas permeated throughout the zeitgeist and change lives of those around us. And for the best of ways, we should be able to shift cultures, because we can access the hearts of the people by translating the real stories that we're living into works of art that they relate to, and it will stick to their ribs. Like, being confident and intelligent, it behooves the people And whether it affects the power structure negatively is not our business at all. Like, what is our business though? It's taking care of the hearts and minds of the people around us, of humanity. Do you know what I mean? Being confident and intelligent behooves the people. Whether it affects the powers that be negatively is not our business. What is our business is taking care of the lives and the hearts and the minds of humanity. And it is our right as the people of the people, artists, we are the people of the people, to care more about what they go through than what the powers that be and the power structures will do to us in to pacify what we think. So yeah, man, like, they will pacify us, they will make us meek, they will do all of these other things, and we can't live off what the past generation created for us, you know, anymore or much longer without evolving it. Shout out to the bread that they gave us. They gave us the daily bread, but then now we're left with crumbs again. And we need to be able to bake our own. We need to create that stove oven and actually make the best bread of our lives. And, you know, be able to split that bread and multiply it. Because, not even to say that we can create miracles, because God forbid even thinking that. What we can do is create lifestyles for the people so that, you know, we add to what they do for themselves. And I think that's important, to add to what the way that people want to live their lives. And so yeah, that's the final word from me. Thank you very much for listening. And when we're able to advocate for those causes that we care about, we're able to change the lives of people that are not just around us, but people that will benefit, that we've never seen or never met before. But yes, that's that. Thank you. Honestly, this was amazing. I'm so happy that I got to do this. I'm so happy that I got to speak. Oh, Alhamdulillah. This is so good. Oh, I'll see you again on another 1st and the 15th. Rent is always due, man. And it's been so hard to deliver this message, but I'm so emphatic about it that I needed to ensure that this message got out there somehow. And in whatever form that I choose to edit this, please accept this video as a token of not just my gratitude, but as a token to just move forward somehow. And I will try to edit this a little bit better in the near future, but for now, I just needed to make rent. And sometimes it's a little bit ugly, but it is important to make rent and have it be ugly than, you know, try to make it pretty and miss it and be in arrears. And I never want to be in arrears with you guys. Remember, rent is also always, rent is always due. See you again. Thank you very much. See you again.